Okay, we're going to get started. We're going to go ahead and get started, and I'm going to go ahead and introduce the panel. So as you're walking to your seats, if you would just walk to your seats quietly, it would really help. It is now my great pleasure to introduce to you members of our second panel. We heard from Voices of the Field the first time. Now we're going to hear from folks that are actually providing amazing programs that are supporting our families and having a lot of success with them. We have Chaplain Donald Rutherford, the 23rd Chief of Chaplains, United States Army Chaplain. Rutherford has served in Operation Desert Shield, Operation Desert Storm, Operation Hurricane Andrew Relief, Operation Desert Thunder, and Operation Iraqi Freedom. We have Captain Wanda Finch. Captain Finch is the Family and Community Program Manager for the Resilience and Prevention Directorate at the Defense Centers of Excellence for Psychological Health and Traumatic Brain Injury, DCoE. Dr. Susan McCutcheon, who is the Director of Family Services, Women's Mental Health, and Military Sexual Trauma, and she is with, for the Office of Mental Health. She is with the Veterans Health Administration of the Department of Veterans Affairs. And last but surely not least, we have Mr. Cornell McClellan, who is a member of the President's Council on Fitness, Sports, and Nutrition. He is a fitness consultant, and this is my favorite part. He happens to be the personal trainer of the First Family. He is also the owner of Naturally Fit, a training and wellness company in Chicago. And so now we're going to start with Chaplain Donald Rutherford.
Good morning. It's great being with you this morning and talk a little bit about the Chaplain Corps and some of our family programs that we do, especially one that you may be familiar with, Strong Bonds. But when I was asked to do this today, this is probably the hardest group to speak in front of because you probably have the hardest job of supporting families. And so it's a real honor to be with you this morning and talk a little bit about what we do. Okay, can I have my first slide, please? Have the next slide, please. There we go. Okay, religious support for the Army. We've been doing this as chaplains for a long time. We're one of the first branches in the Army, 1775. And when I began as Chief of Chaplains, we looked at really what road we wanted to take. And we looked at where we've come from. And I think we had a really good basis. We've modernized things as we've gone along, but there are three things that the chaplains do that we do well. That we nurture the living, that we care for the wounded, honor the fallen. Joe Odierno talks about prevent and shape and win. When you think about it, that's really what we're doing. We work in preventing, in shaping, taking care of families, taking care of relationships, and then when there's a problem, we make sure that they are strong enough to win. We really take good care of them. That is our whole idea. Now, those three areas touch on the very normal things that we do in life that every family goes through, and they touch on some of the very difficult experiences that soldiers go through and families go through during the cycles of life experiences, especially during times of military deployments, military service. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so what do we do? Well, as I said before, we prevent, and we shape, and we win. You notice on the left side of the slide, it talks about the unit chaplains, our installation, and our garrison chaplains, how we are individuals who go out and we do all these different things in different areas. Now, our activities and our programs, whether they be in the unit, to the chapels, they touch soldiers and families in many, many different ways. Much of our ministry is focused on prevention, making sure that we take care of something before it's ever going to happen. We work for the commander. It's always the commander's program that we work. We help the commanders support the soldiers and families, make sure they are resilient, that they are able to really take care of a problem before it happens, where they have challenges that turn into a crisis. Now, some of our efforts are focused on crisis response, on intervention with helping others professionals to support soldiers and families that are able to manage a problem, manage their own challenges. And we go and we help them immediately. Now, many of our Army initiatives have really very specific chaplain corps tasks that we use. We're integrated well into the major efforts that are currently being conducted to support our soldiers and our families. Response to the Vice Chief's Health of the Force assessment and our suicide stand down that we did back on 27th of September, we were able to surge strong bonds to a lot of our families. We're able to bring in 50,000 other families and family members that we could help during that time. We had $31 million that we surged out to the field, went out to the ACOMs, the DRUs, the ASCCs, and they initiated. And it went very, very well. They're doing a great job with that. So we're doing that for the first quarter, and second quarter we're working on making sure we can continue on with that good work. Okay, next slide, please. Now remember our competencies: to nurture, to care, to honor. These are things that we do. We're looking at a soldier. The top of that slide talks about the needs that come from normal life events, things that everybody happens, doesn't matter who you are, whether you're a butcher, baker, or candlestick maker. Those are the things that you will have, that they go through. Illnesses, hospitalizations, marriage, birth of children. But being a member of the military, a member of the Army, is a very, very different calling, a very, very important calling. Things that happen all the time. Think about, it talks about permanent change of stations. How many people out there change jobs every 3 years and pick up everything that they have and move the children, move the family, and move everything and do it very, very well? And they do that because of the families, because of resilient families, because of resilient family programs that are there to help them. Think about what the chaplains do also. Now, I'm a Catholic priest from upstate New York, and I think about my classmates that were in the seminary. Now, not many of them have been on airborne operations. I think I'm about the only one that has been. Okay? Not many of them have deployed to faraway lands with your own congregations. You know, not many of them have moved every 2.5 to 3 years. So very, very different. So we're embedded in the units, and so we really kind of understand what's going on with our soldiers and with our families. That we're individuals that are always there with them. When they move out with them. And so we have chaplains who are able to be trained in those areas. They have that because they've experienced of moving their own families. But also they have the capabilities that we've trained some of our chaplains for as family life chaplains that are in communities, that are in divisions, that are deploying, and also our hospital chaplains who've been trained with clinical pastoral education. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, that talks about the situations that we have. That's kind of a busy slide, but what it says is that our Army recognizes the cost of military service in terms of burdens for our soldiers and our families. Now, anytime we have a transition, it's kind of difficult for anyone. When we change from one thing to another, one job to another, it's very, very hard. Especially hard on soldiers, and specifically a major hurdle in maintaining effective relationships in their own lives. Make sure that they have something that is strong to come home to. Things may change in their jobs. We always make sure they have stability with their families at home, that their families are stable, the families are strong. Though both deployments and redeployments pose challenges to individuals, to couples, and to families. That's why we look at our programs. They're geared toward the single soldier, they're geared toward the family, and they're geared toward the soldier. We gear them to make sure that they are really well taken care of. Now, we're learning in a very growing caseload that the trend lines for individual and couple counseling, that reintegration in time at home represent probably a greater challenge than we expected before. A lot of things have happened. A lot of soldiers, a lot of families are coming in with a lot of baggage sometimes. So what we're trying to do is trying to help them unpack those bags to make sure that they're dealing with problems in an appropriate way. That when something is wrong, we're able to be there with them, to help them to focus on what is right, and to make sure that the families have the programs that they need and that they deserve. Okay, next slide, please. You guys talked about the stress and the force that observed. I'm going to go on the list and just talk a little bit about that. The first one, talk about buildup of physical ailments, physical challenges that come from deployments, that come from moving so very, very much. We talk about the backlog of professional and career requirements. The career. When they're deployed for so long, they have to make sure that they come back, they get their professional training. Put the stress in the family. Again, a separation from the family. Again, we talk about relationship. Maybe they have to get to know one another better. Maybe that they've grown in different ways and they have to get to know one another, know that they can work together. PCSs and unit cohesion. I know when I came back from Iraq, I moved out to Germany very, very quickly. Well, it's very, very hard on me because I had been with this group and known and trusted them and gone to war with them and seeing all the things that had happened with them for a year. And now it was 62 days after I got back, I moved and I went someplace else. So it's hard on me, and I'm not even married. I can't imagine what it's like on a family. You think about the things that happen, economic uncertainty. When they're deployed, there's a little bit extra money. Maybe when they come back, that money isn't there, and maybe they have to maybe look and see what they have to do to make sure that they're within their own budget. And maybe sometimes it happens that there are days that come up that they can remember what happened in a battle on that day, maybe the losses that were there. Or again, they can feel that, something happened to my best friend. Why did it happen? Why didn't it happen to me? Why did it happen to him? So a lot of these things happen. There are a lot of frustrations related to layers of expectations. And maybe they have to realize there's a lot of pressures that are going on in their own life. So what all these things are is signs of stress on the force. And as many transitions through the ARFAGEN cycle and then PCS into a unit in new garrison, it puts a lot of pressure on a family, a lot of pressure on a soldier, a lot of pressure through them all. What we try to do is make sure that these experiences may be obvious, may be easy to grasp for us. We see them out there. What we have to do is make sure that we're tying together the needs of the family, the needs of the unit, the needs of that soldier, that they're all wanting working together. So what we do is very simply, we are aware and we're able to apply the concerns of commanders, the compassion of our own chaplain corps, to respond to those needs with quality programs, a lasting impact on our soldiers and our families. We want to make sure these programs are lasting. Probably the best program that the Chaplain Corps has had within the last 13 years, next slide please, is Strong Bonds. Strong Bonds started 13 years ago in Hawaii and in the 25th Divarti. Started out with 14 couples, and it's grown enormously in the last 13 years. It's a program that is run by the commander. He owns it. The chaplain executes it for the commander. Next slide, please. What it really is based on is relationships. We find out that if we do studies on things that have gone wrong with families, things that have gone wrong in suicide, have caused suicide, we find out that the biggest problem is a relationship. What Strong Bond says very simply is that we care. He speaks loud and clear about the Army's commitment to our soldiers and to our families. We care. It's an extremely popular program, and the care is communicated through events. They're at our premier venues. We take them to a nice place with practical training, quality support for the entire family at the Army's expense. That doesn't cost them anything. It is funded. It's a great program. The chaplains are well versed in what to do. It is able to be crafted to the needs of the soldier and the families in that command. There are various modules that the chaplain can use that he or she has been trained on, and they go out and talk to the commander and see what is best to be used for them at that particular time. Now, what the Army has done is a major investment in soldiers and families that we know are going to pay dividends for the future. There was a study done by the University of Denver, and we're in the third of a 5-year study. And that study tells us that those who have been in a Strong Bonds program, divorce rate is markedly lower than it is for those who have not gone into it. So really, it builds on relationships, it builds on the strength of relationships, and we make sure that it stresses the importance of being together, of listening, and of communicating. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, what is Strong Bonds? Well, it's a commander's program, created by the chaplains. It helps them to shape what is needed. It enhances resilience within the family. It's usually done off post in a very nice facility. The units that have soldiers and couples attend Strong Bonds have seen how it enhances their efforts to build cohesion among the unit within their own formations. It's focused on prevention. Again, General Odierno, prevent, to shape, and to win. We prevent what is going on. It is not treatment, it is prevention. We shape to make sure they have a good, strong relationship, and when we do that, then everybody wins. We really got it made. So really, it's a very, very wonderful program. Next slide talks a little bit about some of these programs, what we've done in fiscal year 12. The one that I think is more interesting is that, as we always know, our young soldiers come up with names for everything, different names for what we have. Now, the name that we've given to the Strong Bond for Single is How to Meet the Love of Your Life. But the soldiers has always come up with a great name for it. They call How Not to Marry a Jerk or a Jerkette, what they call it. And it's a wonderful program that is molded toward them. If you notice the top right, there have been almost 5,000 events, and 215,000 folks have been brought in there. It talks about the importance of this program. Now, as in previous years, a lot of events were done for our rear detachment to help spouses and children during times of separation from deployment. Now, all these events that we execute is approved and validated training materials, but they are very flexible. As we said, they are molded for that particular unit, and they're able to adapt to local needs and the cycles of them. Once again, the chaplains respond as facilitators. It's a commander's program. The commander knows what is to be done. He talks to the chaplain. The chaplain, as always, gives them good direction. We know he gives them good direction. And again, just a reminder that we have been able to surge this first in recognition of the health of the force, and also for Suicide Prevention Stand-Down Day, we are able to surge. We have treated over 50,000 so far. That's only just in the last month and a half, so we've done very, very well. Okay, next slide, please. Now, strong bonds can be done in very different ways. There's three particular ways that we do it up there: Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie. Alpha is a very small one. Now, we mold this for the unit. Maybe there are some times that we're not able to train for the entire weekend. It's for 4 hours. It could be off-site or at the installation, not an overnight. We have another one, Bravo, that is 8 hours long, which again is molded for that particular unit, what is needed. And then there's Charlie, which is the entire thing, which is usually 2 overnights, which is done very well at a very nice facility. We did to make sure this got out for all the troops is we've basically softened the MOI. We made it easier for the commanders and the chaplains to be able to execute it. Now, we've done this because maybe there are times when they can't attend an overnight events, even though we provide them with a nice place and with child watch, it just isn't possible. Remember, we build this on a particular unit's needs. All right, next slide, please. Talk a little bit about some of our strengths and benefits. It's a proven program with wide appeal and documented impact. We have studies that have been done. We make sure that it is executed. We have contractors that make sure that everything is done in the field. The chaplain comes in and just pulls the program off. Strong Bonds is able to complement some of the other programs that we have in the Chaplain Corps, but it builds on resilience, improves readiness of our soldiers and of our families, make sure that they are ready to do what they have to do. That surge, again, has just gone very, very well. We've just gotten wonderful results back from the field on what we have done. Okay. Now, I think looking at strong bonds then, and looking at what General Odionis talked about to prevent, and win, we have done exactly that. When strong bonds came out a very short time ago, we never thought it would ever be a program that it is today. But many people will tell you what it has done for them. We truly have been able to be people who have been able to prevent, a problem that is there, to shape a relationship, and make sure that they win in their own relationship. And when we're able to do that the entire Army wins, that the soldiers are ready, the families are prepared, we're better people. Next slide. Okay, so thank you. It's been great being with you this morning. I'll be here to take any questions that you may have. God bless you.
Good morning. So, can we load my slides, please? Thank you. So I'm here to provide you some information on resources and strategies for promoting psychological health, with the intent to offer some ideas of taking the stress out of reintegration. Next slide, please. I'm going to start with an overview of who the Defense Centers of Excellence for Psychological Health and TBI is, and provide you an overview of what some of the demands and stresses are for military families, as well as the impact of psychological health of military families, strategies and resources to promote psychological health. Next slide, please. DCoE, as many of you may know us as, our mission is to promote the lives of the nation's service members, veterans, and their families in advancing excellence in psychological health and addressing TBI needs. Our vision is to be the trusted source and advocate for psychological health and TBI, as well as provide knowledge and standards that are profoundly going to improve the system of care. Our values are excellence, integrity, and teamwork. Next slide, please. DCoE has 3 centers: DIVVIC, or the Defense and Veterans Brain Injury Center, whose mission is to serve the active duty military and their beneficiaries in addressing issues that relate to traumatic brain injury, as well as introduce clinical research, advanced education programs, as well as standards for providing excellent TBI care. The Deployment Health and Clinical Center, whose mission is to improve the deployment-related health care for the military treatment centers, as well as the military health system, and also provide research, program evaluation, and program implementation support as needed. And then our third center, which is the National Center for Telehealth and Technology, or T2 as we like to call it. And T2 is the lead innovator of health technology solutions. And these solutions are tested, they're delivered, and they become valued solutions for improving the lives of our warriors, veterans, and their families. Next slide, please. So some of you in the audience may already be familiar with the next slides that I'm about to show. Next slide, please. The Military Community and Family Policy Report from 2011 provided us a snapshot of how many Americans are actually engaged as part of the military force and their families. And right now it stands at 5.3. And when you look at those numbers, 41.9% are military personnel, that's including married and single. 58.1% are family members. 37% are beneficiaries, and 63% of our military families do not live on an installation. The active duty population tends to be a little younger than the selected reserve components. And I thought I'd also provide a little bit of breakdown on that. The active duty, 49.3% between the ages of 25 or younger, and the selected reserve component, about 48.9%, are 41 years or older. Next slide, please. Some of the unique stressors for the military family, some of them we're very familiar with. Frequent moves, I think we've heard a lot about that this morning. Disruption in school, work, and family life, often impacting the children. Possibility of prolonged separations, particularly recurrent deployments. Multiple deployments to combat settings, as well as the risk for deployment-related injuries. What we haven't really focused on a lot are some of the unique differences for the reserve component, which I've also noted here as well. The reserve components experience an unprecedented number of deployments in the recent years. We are in a series of 2 wars for the last decade. This country has increased its reliance on the reserve component throughout this time. Children have been observed to face more behavioral and emotional difficulties, and oftentimes are worried about their parents' next deployment. And finally, our reserve components are also subject to a geographically dispersed contact with the installations. Next slide, please. The research literature talks about a varied impact on the spouses, elevated rates of treatment and or diagnosis of depression, sleep problems, anxiety, acute stress, and other adjustment disorders tend to be some of the common concerns for spouses. This includes difficulty adjusting to the absence of the service member, disrupted communication, parenting stress, as well as financial and occupational strains. There's also concerns about the perceived loss of social support by spouses. The longer deployments also tend to increase psychological health concerns. And there's also more challenges during the transition between deployment and reintegration, and the community's ability to understand what the families may be faced with. Next slide, please. As far as deployment on children, again, the research shows varied information in terms of the impact. Adolescents experience a higher rate of emotional difficulties. Children ages 5 to 12 are one-third more likely to be at risk for psychological and social problems, and children ages 3 to 5 were also observed to have had more behavioral problems than those without a deployed parent. There's also some concerns about increased child maltreatment issues, and younger families that may be less educated are also more likely to have children and other psychological health problems. So what are some strategies that are underway and currently taking place that can help promote psychological health for our military families? We've heard the term resilience earlier in our first forum, and what I have here for you is the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff instruction, which provides the definition of resilience, as well as a framework for understanding how resilience addresses the spectrum from individual, family, unit, or an organization, as well as the community level. DoD and RAND entered into a lit review a few years ago, and from that examination they determined that there were key factors associated with resilience that operate at each one of these levels. The other notion that they also gained from that literature review is that these elements are often interactive, and so one can promote the other. Next slide, please. The Department of Defense has also adopted the Total Force Fitness model or paradigm, and Total Force Fitness consists of 8 domains. 4 of them are psychological, behavioral, social, and spiritual, or the mind domains, and the other 4 are body domains: physical, environmental, medical, and nutritional. What's nice about this paradigm is that it's holistic, and it really emphasizes the individual, family, and unit, as well as community factors that demonstrate the interaction across these domains. Some of the services have adapted a variety of these domains in some of their current practices. Total Force Fitness is a framework that places the individual at the center of each of these domains and identifies the critical influences of how family, organization, and the environment interact. Next slide, please. Some of the factors associated with promoting positive psychological health include emotional ties, and that is being associated with a level of nurturance that can sometimes ease the transitions either through life or transitions from deployment into reintegration. Emotional support, which looks at the emotional and quality of early intervention and how those effects can reduce the levels of stress that families may be addressing and attempting to cope with. Another factor is being able to integrate closeness, which could be those displays of warmth and closeness that most families want to have within their life. And closeness also can reiterate a sense of resilience in children. Another factor is nurturing. Nurturing in that parenting skills can be used to reduce family stress as well as increase the child's resilience. Adaptability, the ease of adapting to change and allowing protective factors to work to their best to protect the individual from any psychological health challenges. And communication, which we've heard a lot about this morning as well, being able to increase one's capacity to share and understand as well as respond to feelings and connect with your other family members. Next slide, please. I'm about to share with you a few resources. Next slide. MilitaryKidsConnect, which was launched earlier this year towards the end of 2011. is an online database that helps children share their challenges or communicate with their family and friends about their deployment experiences. MilitaryKidsConnect is focused on parent and educator tracks, which provide information to help these children understand what is actually taking place, and that information can be used in the home and or school settings. Next slide. The website features 3 different age groups for children: children age 6 to 8, 9 to 12, and 13 to 17, because the developmental differences would speak to the various resilience needs that those age groups may require. The site is tailored to identifying the specific deployment location. There's also a passport for gaming as well. And then there's age-differentiated message boards. Now, children must get their parents' permission in order to be able to access this website. And parents can put in place parental controls so that they can monitor what the children are doing. I think this is the slide that has a video on it as well. Okay, we'll forego the video. If you have some time later today, please visit the website. There is a video on the main homepage where you have an 8-year-old sharing his experience about his parent being deployed. DCoE also has a variety of other resources. One of them includes a handbook for family and friends and service members before, during, and after deployment. This handbook not only provides information on what the experience of deployment is, but also a variety of resources to help promote families in staying connected and addressing psychological health concerns. The other is the DCoE Children and Military Service Members Resource Guide. Provides a list of resources that are age appropriate for children. And the final one is the Sesame Street Talk, Listen, Connect series, which was adapted a few years ago with videos and toolkits for children to either implement at home or perhaps in their school setting as well. Next slide, please. Some additional resources to help military families stay connected include the Military Families Near and Far. It's an interactive website developed by the Sesame Street Workshop, and it also helps to communicate during times of change and or transition. Families Near and Far helps military families create their own web page to communicate and connect. Feel Electric, which is a mobile app that can be downloaded either for Android or iTunes use. This encourages children to express their feelings and emotions. And finally, the Electric Company Learning Program, which provides a number of after-school tools and programs and items for educators that are filled with literacy as well as other math learning tools to keep children busy after school. The website for the Military Families Near and Far is free. There's also 2 additional items that you will find on there. One is the Electric Company magazine, special edition for military families, includes a number of writings and drawing activities. And the interactive poster for kids, which introduces the Electric Company and their cast and encouraging children to express their feelings. Next slide. Real Warriors campaign is a DoD anti-stigma campaign to help encourage help-seeking behavior among service members, veterans, and their families. And one of the ways that the Real Warrior campaign does this is through a variety of tools that you see here. If you visit the website, you will notice at the top of the page that there is a tab for each specific subgroup of the military community, including the Guard and Reserve. There's a special tab for family members as well. And the website includes a series of articles, message boards, blogs, profiles that you will hear from service members as well as their spouses regarding their experiences either before, during, or after deployment. There's also links to a variety of 24/7 resources, including the DCoE Outreach Center, as well as the Military Crisis Line, and a number of multimedia products that you can download to execute the campaign in your own community. Next slide, please. AfterDeployment.org is another online community, provides a number of self-care solutions that assist families in engaging and learning about behavior change and providing some tips in terms of how they can address those issues. Some of the features include libraries, a number of self-assessments, videos, interactive workshops, and forums, as well as blogs that you will hear from a variety of experts. And there's also a provider training component as well. Next slide. There's also a number of family support resources which may also be useful, particularly if the area of focus is a non-clinical issue. The Family Support Centers provides access to key resources that enhance the readiness for military families. The Family Assistance Centers, which are state-based facilities, they provide information and referrals for local resources. There's the Joint Family Support Assistance. Most states have the joint program with 4 key staff, which include a military family life counselor, a child and youth behavioral military and family life counselor, a military one-source consultant, and perhaps one additional member that may be selected by the state. And their job is to augment many of the existing family programs to provide a continuum of resources and supports to military families. And last but certainly not least is the Military One Source, where you can contact them and they will also provide you information on resources to a wide array of topics, including deployment, finances, spouse employment, and or education concerns. Next slide. DCoE has launched several platforms for staying connected, either with DCoE. I believe this conference is being tweeted right now as we speak. There's also YouTube videos available for you to review. Our main DCoE website is the first one, deco.health.mil. Our blogs provide expert knowledge and information on various topics, so please feel free to go online and read them and offer your comments as well, or questions that you may have for the experts there. We're also on Facebook, so you can follow us, Facebook as well as Twitter, as I mentioned. And probably our newest feature is called Scribe. It's a document sharing website which allows you to upload a series of documents that may be formatted in any particular program, be it Word or Microsoft PowerPoint, PDFs. And as a user, you can literally set up your own community for a small number of people to access or for a broader community to access as well. Next slide. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Good morning, everyone. May I have my slides, please? Well, I'm going to shift gears a little bit and talk about the family services that we have available at the Department of Veterans Affairs. And having family services at the Department of Veterans Affairs has really been a culture shift to us. And I'm very proud of the services now that we have to offer. Should I just go on? Do you have my slides, or should I just go on? Ah, okay. Very good. Next slide, please. As I mentioned earlier, that really consistent with the recovery philosophy, we've developed a continuum of family services. So we believe that not every intervention is tailored to the veteran. So we try to provide individualized treatments for our veteran and their family member based on their needs. And so our continuum goes from the least intensive intervention to the most. And you've heard a lot about resiliency. And actually resiliency for us in the Department of Veterans Affairs is a new concept. And so we've just now started to pilot some of our interventions around resiliency. But we also have family education and training, consultation, and then the most intense, marriage and family counseling. Next slide, please. When you look at our continuum, you can see our various interventions that fall under the various types, and I'm going to be talking about each one individually. Next slide, please. We started to offer an intervention called Moving Forward, which was developed by the NAZUs, and it's really a problem-solving therapy training. And one of the most critical components in resiliency training is developing skills around problem-solving therapy. And so this is a 4-session manualized group session. The emphasis is on our newly returning veterans, but we do accept all cohorts into this intervention. The goal is to really enhance effective problem-solving strategies. We've taken this 4-session intervention and are now piloting a 5th component, a family component, and we always have to label something in it, and we're calling it the power of 2. And so for those veterans who are in this intervention, if they feel that they would be enhanced by having a family member come in and learn these same skills so that they can either then coach the veteran as he's practicing the problem-solving skills, or then really kind of address family problems through these new found skills. And so we just started this pilot this past year, and we're very eager to see how it turns out. Next slide, please. And within the Department of Veterans Affairs, we have several family education, family training types of initiatives. And family education is basically a set of techniques to provide families with information they need to be able to partner with their veteran to help them support their recovery. These can take many formats, and they include such topics like symptoms, prognosis, reducing stress, and those type of things. With these different interventions, the veteran may or may not be present. Next slide, please. The first one I'm going to talk about, next slide, please, is SAFE, and that's support and family education. And this is an 18-session program. It was developed by Michelle Sherman in Oklahoma. And what's very nice about this is the veteran family member can attend as many sessions as needed, that it isn't lockstep where they have to attend all sessions. And this particular intervention is not appropriate for our veterans who have dementia or drug addiction. Next slide. The next family education program we have in the VA is called Operation Enduring Families. And this is also an intervention that you will see also in the Department of Defense if you haven't already. This is a 5-session program targeted towards family members of our newly returning veterans. And the topics are family relationships, communications and intimacy, anger, PTSD, and depression. Our last family education intervention is the NAMI, which is National Alliance on Mental Illness Family to Family Education Program. And this is a 12-session program focused on our family members who have a veteran with a serious mental illness. That would be something like schizophrenia, major depression, bipolar disorder. This is taught by a peer family member who has experienced living with a loved one who has serious mental illness. They in this course, they receive information about the treatment, prognosis, medications, problem solving. The difference in this intervention is that you have to attend all 12 sessions. What's very nice about this intervention is it's far more than education. For those family members who do have a veteran with serious mental illness, they can experience all kinds of challenges, including stigma, and having a hard time finding someone else to relate to. So it's education plus support, and it's a really nice intervention. Next slide, please. We at the VA have entered into 2 memorandums of understanding with the National Alliance on Mental Illness. The first one was in 2008 to 2010, where we would co-sponsor with the NAMI a family education program and 1 VA in every state across the country. We have now continued that MOU to include many, many more VAs, and that will expire in 2013. As the VAs then are really being able to now partner with the local NAMI affiliates, then they'll be able to offer this as part of our continuum of family services. Next slide, please. As Captain Finch mentioned, we also recommend using the Talk, Listen, Connect, Deployments, Homecoming, and Change outreach set. The Department of Veterans Affairs purchased about 200,000 of these kits to distribute to all of our VAs and vet centers. There's 3 different topics on the DVDs, but of course the change one is most relevant to the veteran population. It tells a story about Rosita, whose father has returned from service in a wheelchair, and she learns how to actually then develop a new normal in her home. What's very interesting about these DVDs, if you haven't seen them already, is within the Sesame Street characters, you see that footage, but also then you see real footage. And for this particular DVD, you see real footage of its fathers. There are no mothers, but fathers who have amputations, mental health issues, various things that have happened to them during their service, and they're working with their children. So it's a wonderful series, and it's something that you would have the parent view first, and then when the child views it, you would sit down with the child for co-viewing. It's not something that you would just sit the child in front of a TV and then walk out of the room, because then you'd have this opportunity to have a wonderful discussion on how you're building this new normal together. Next slide, please. The next intense intervention is something we call family consultation, and this is when a veteran's family member has a particular issue, and we're just going to offer a few sessions with the veteran and their family member focused on this issue. It's typically 1 to 5 sessions, and we're finding if this isn't sufficient for the veteran and their family member, then we would end up recommending a more intense intervention. Next slide, please. Talk about marriage and family counseling program, which is our most intense intervention at the VA. The mental health services in VA has really made a commitment to evidence-based practices and really training their clinicians on how best to provide treatment for the veteran and their family member. As you can imagine, if you were a clinician who was interested in providing family-type services, you wouldn't necessarily, a few years back, come to the VA, because we probably weren't known for offering a lot of family services. So what we have done is we've really made a commitment to training up our clinicians to be able to provide cutting-edge treatments to our family members and the veterans. What we do with the training, and I don't know if some of you have the same experience, you go to a training, you're very excited about the intervention, and then you go home and you try to implement it, and it's very difficult. So what we do is we have trainings that are between 3 and 5 days, or experiential, and then after the training, the clinicians then have expert consultation for at least 6 months following the training to ensure that they are really compliant to the model that we are putting forward. And we're always disseminating evidence-based models, meaning that they have research that backs up their effectiveness. I'll talk about the individual treatments. I'll start with the next slide. The first one is our first marriage and family counseling treatment, and it's integrative behavioral couples therapy, and it's a manualized intervention with great data using randomized control studies, and it integrates the goals of acceptance and change with behavioral treatment strategies. The overall goal to this is really to reduce relational distress and strengthen the family relationship. This is not a diagnosis-specific intervention, and this includes some initial 4 sessions for assessment and then 4 to 12 sessions in the intervention type of the phase. The next slide, please. The next couples therapy we offer is behavioral couples therapy for substance use disorders. So this is really focused on that couple where the veteran is having issues with addictions. And this again is an evidence-based practice, and it shows to support abstinence and improve relationship satisfaction. This is for a veteran and their partner. It fits really well with self-help groups, and it shows to reduce substance use in trials. With all of our, next slide please. with all of our couples treatments, we include classes on parenting. Again, this is something within the VA system that we haven't been focusing on too much. So we do 3-hour presentation for all of our couples trainings, and we cover topics like common parenting issues, assessment, so what are some of the normal benchmarks for children, and when should we be referring out, various things like that. Next slide. Again, because couples treatment is fairly new within the VA system, our clinicians are going to be assessing couples who may have levels of aggression in the relationship. And so as part of all of our marriage and family therapy training, we also include content on intimate partner violence, because intimate partner violence increases when you have such diagnosis as post-traumatic stress disorder and substance use, as well as combat exposure. So what we want to make sure is our clinicians are able to assess the couple coming in for levels of aggression, and if there is low levels of aggression and they believe it's still safe to see as a couple, then what the clinician should be monitoring as they're seeing the couple. Sometimes because of the level of aggression, it's really not appropriate to see the couple as a couple. They need individual work instead. Next slide. Family psychoeducation is an intervention that's targeted towards our veterans who have a serious mental illness and their family members. The interventions have several common components of education, problem solving, and really trying to improve the current functioning. We have 2 models of family psychoeducation available within the VA system. The first one is behavioral family therapy, which is a single model intervention, and multiple family group therapy, which is, again, a model that you would get groups of families together. Again, this is an evidence-based practice that shows relapse, to prevent relapse of our individuals with serious mental illness. Coaching with Care is a new initiative we have. It's a telephone line where family members can call in, and if they're having, if the family member is interested in getting their veteran re-engaged into the VA system, we will help coach them on some strategies that may be helpful. Or perhaps the family member is observing some symptoms and they don't know if perhaps it would be a good time for the veteran to engage or re-engage into the VA system. And so sessions are available to just give information to help them with engagement, or if needed, coach them on how best to engage their veteran back into family care. And the next slide, please. And this is the phone number and website for coaching into care. Next slide, please. Some new initiatives that we're planning for the VA. We're doing some small pilots on FOCUS, which I know is very popular in the Department of Defense, which is Family Overcoming Under Stress, and we hope to start that next year. We're doing our first training in cognitive behavioral couples therapy for PTSD. Again, this is a diagnosis-specific intervention on marriage and family counseling. We have just received excellent data on the results, so now we feel that this is an intervention that would be worthy to disseminate nationally, and we're going to start training on that this coming year. We're developing some training and guidance around telehealth, using family services for telehealth, and we're producing some video work. And thank you very much.
I guess we got it up there. Hello, everybody. And thank you, Patty, for your introduction. And I just want to say that I am honored to have the opportunity to be here with you today and to speak to you on behalf of the President's Council on Fitness, Sports, and Nutrition about the importance of getting active and living healthy, especially for military members, veterans, and their families. As a father, a grandfather, and someone with military experience in my family, my dad, my 3 uncles, my 2 brothers, and hosts of cousins, I know firsthand the impact that military service can have on families and communities. So I would like to thank you all. For those of you who have served to protect Americans that you've never met, and those that spend their time supporting military families here at home during and after deployment. We recognize the challenges military members face to identify support opportunities for themselves and their families, especially when it comes to opportunities to be active. Being active is one of the best ways to cope with stress and improve your physical, mental, and emotional health. So I think it kind of goes along with what we've been hearing today. And both myself and the President's Council are committed to helping more people have access to physical activity opportunities across the country, no matter their age, background, or abilities. Can we go to the next slide? So, as she said earlier, in addition to being on the council, I am the trainer to the First Family of the United States. I work with both the President and the First Lady and a lot of the members of the staff of the White House. And so I have the opportunity to see how even the busiest people in the world can make personal health and physical activity a priority in their life, because they know how important it is to be healthy, and that it's much needed in terms of increasing one's energy. Both the President and the First Lady believe that this is a lifestyle in terms of being healthy and fit, and that's why it's so important to them that so shall the country be, and to do whatever they can in terms of the military. Before I discuss the details of our military-focused programs, I'd like to first provide a little background of the President's Council. For some brief history, I don't know if you knew that the Council was originally started by President Eisenhower back in 1956 to make sure the Americans' youth was fit as their European counterparts, specifically focused on military preparedness. Throughout the years, the Council expanded its reach to encompass all Americans, but always focusing on promoting healthy lifestyles. And almost 3 years ago, the Council expanded its mission to include healthy eating. So now the current mission of the Council, as specified in an executive order from the President, is to engage, educate, and empower all Americans to adopt a healthy lifestyle that includes regular physical activity, sports participation, and good nutrition. The question you're probably asking is, how do we do this? We engage the public by expanding national interest in and awareness of the benefits of a healthy lifestyle. This is primarily done by using our council members who are appointed by the President and serve in an advisory capacity through the U.S. Secretary of Health and Human Services. All the council members, including myself, believe wholeheartedly in the mission of the council, with a goal to serve as examples on how to lead an active, healthy lifestyle. There are currently 16 council members who represent diversity across backgrounds, areas of expertise and insight analysis, including fitness experts, nutritional specialists, business leaders, as well as award-winning chefs, a NASCAR driver, a Super Bowl champion, and several Olympic gold medalists. Council members are used to inspire and motivate audiences through speaking engagements and community events. This year, personally, I've been over the country promoting the mission of the council to fitness professionals in California, to a youth squash program in Chicago, and to public school students right here in DC. The council has also been a key partner in the First Lady's Let's Move initiative to end childhood obesity within a generation. I have been working with the First Lady for about 15 years, and so I had a personal seat in watching her concern about her own daughters and the concern about the children in our nation, looking at 1 in 3 of all of our children are either overweight or obese. And she felt that it was a national crisis. and felt that there was something that should be done about it, and she started the national conversation about this. So because of that and kind of watching that unfold and develop, it's very special to my heart. The council educates by expanding the availability of quality information and guidance pertaining to our mission, and this is primarily done through initiatives and programs. A great example is our recently launched initiative that makes the link between physical activity, participation, and academic performance, featuring our co-chairs, Drew Brees and Dominique Dawes. There are now PSAs that are going to be on TV, bus stations, and on radio throughout that are encouraging and reminding people that physical activity is not just for the muscles, but also for the brain. Next slide, please. We also have various programs that are run through the President's Challenge, including the recently updated Presidential Youth Fitness Program, as well as the President's Active Lifestyle Award, which almost 2 million Americans earned last year. And I don't know if any of you all remember the fitness tests that we used to have in school, and so many people used to sweat when it was time for that. Well, we've kind of changed that some, so it's not so much of a test, but encouraging physical fitness and physical activity. Next slide. The council is also charged to empower, which means to stimulate, enhance coordination of programs within and among the private-public sectors. And we do this through partnerships. Partnerships are key in enabling us to reach Americans all over the country. And I've personally been fortunate enough to be involved in a few partner initiatives, such as NBC, iVillage, Get Moving Now Challenge, and the USO Care Package event for troops in Afghanistan last month on September 11th. Next slide. But the partnership that I would like to discuss today is our collaboration with the Yellow Ribbon Reintegration Program of the Department of Defense. This partnership helps to promote free fitness benefits to National Guard and Reserve members and their families. And as most of you know, Yellow Ribbon is a Department of Defense-wide effort to promote the well-being of National Guard and Reserve members and those who support them by connecting with resources throughout the deployment cycle. We're running out of time, so we're going to skip the video. Okay. We have all been working with Yellow Ribbon for almost 2 years to spread the word and fitness opportunities. In 2011, there were over 2,000 Yellow Ribbon events across the country that reached 300,000 Guard and Reserve members and their families. Yellow Ribbon also helps to distribute free fitness benefits messaging at events and newsletters and online through videos and blog posts. More information about the program and the services they offer is available at yellowribbon.mil. Next slide. The Joining Forces Initiative. Our partnership with Yellow Ribbon is a part of our broader initiative to support military families with healthy lifestyle opportunities. We know that it's especially important that military families whose loved ones sacrifice so much to serve our country have access to opportunities to be physically active. So First Lady Michelle Obama and Dr. Jill Biden have called for Americans to show their support for military families who sacrifice so much to protect freedoms and ensure our safety. The stress of war, multiple deployments, and frequent moves can negatively affect the wellness of military families. So children and spouses of service members are more likely to experience anxiety, stress, changes in relationships dynamics with family and friends, and isolation of depression when their loved ones are deployed. So through donated services, engagement opportunities, and other resources, citizens and communities across the nation are joining forces to show their appreciation and respect for military families. Last May, the Council and First Lady Michelle Obama launched the Joining Forces Family Initiative to support military families through healthy lifestyle opportunities. The Council partnered with the Health Racquet and Sports Club Association, or which is called USA, and the American Council on Exercise, which is also referred to as ACE, to provide free access to certified trainers and gym memberships across the country to deployed Reserve and National Guard service members and their immediate families. USA has committed to their members donating over 100,000 free health club memberships over a 5-year period. Just near 1,000 URSA members have donated free 6-month memberships, which equals almost 50,000 free 6-month club memberships. And ACE has committed to their members donating over 1 million free personal training hours. And I think that is a great, great deal. At this time, ACE members have donated almost 120,000 hours towards their goal. Next slide. We've had great success with this program because our partners like Yellow Ribbon and I wanted to read a direct quote from a military mom and receive some free benefits. Basically, she talks about, since we are rushing, about how the impact has been so great on her sons because their father is the first time he was gone during Christmas time, but because of the free gym membership, the boys were able to spend time at the club in terms of swimming and playing ball, and it really meant a lot that people were doing more than just saying thank you for your service, but actually giving back. And this just shows how meaningful the program can be. So the final question is, how can you get involved? Well, first you can visit .gov/military for all the details of the program. We have videos, photos, downloadable materials, and links to relevant websites and resources for those of you who are looking to maintain a healthy lifestyle. We also have links for ACE and URSA there for their website, so you can give where you can type in your zip code and search for benefits in your area. Once you find a local club or trainer, you can then contact the provider for additional details. And also, we're asking you to please help to spread the word by informing National Guard and Reserve families in your network about the unique program to receive free benefits. And again, I'd just like to thank you. We were running out of time, but I want to thank you for your service. Thank you for what your families do. And let's go get fit. Thank you.
So amazing programs that are out there, and we just need to make sure our families hear about them so that they take advantage of some fantastic opportunities. We actually have run out of time, so we're not going to be doing a question and answer period, unfortunately, with the panel. However, we are keeping a record of the questions, and so please make sure that some of the floor monitors grab them from you, and virtual delegates will also be getting your questions and giving them to the appropriate offices so that we can get some answers. And so I want to again thank the panelists for their wonderful contributions, all the great information. We've got a couple of real quick parting gifts, you know, all those wonderful kinds of things you get when you come to AUSA. And we will be having our next speaker come in very, very shortly, so I would ask that you just stay seated for just a few minutes, and she will be right here.